So I'm going to show you how to sharpen a knife. It's a misunderstood technique, one that human beings have been carrying out successfully for many hundreds, if not thousands of years, without gimmicks, without anything fancy really. It's just an incredibly simple process, but it seems to be made complicated in recent times by lots of different people with different ideas trying to come up with new ways of doing it. However, I believe in simplicity and no bullshit, so I'm going to go back to basics and show you how to sharpen your knife to a razor's edge. We do need to have a sharp knife. The knife needs to be razor sharp for our activities. It's commonly misunderstood that a blunt knife will be more dangerous, safer to use in some way, less likely to hurt yourself with a blunt knife. So I look on with dismay at many parents who allow their children to have a knife as long as it's not sharp. Problem with that is you have to use a lot more pressure when cutting with a blunt knife, and that leads to the blade slipping, and when the blade slips it can quite easily slip into something human, one of your friends or even yourself, and this is a bad thing. This is bad for morale and it's bad for people's health. So onwards, I'm just using a normal oil stone, very, like 2-3 pounds from a hardware shop, and a nice mat to stop it from slipping around on the table. The stone's got a rough side, seen here at the bottom, and a smooth side, seen at the top. The rough side's for getting the very worst of the kinks and burrs out. It removes lots of metal, and the smooth side is for finer work, finer sharpening. As you can see on my knife here, it does need a sharpen. It's in a bit of a state, but the smooth side will be enough. I don't need to use the dark side, the rough side. So we put a squirt of oil on there to lubricate the blade and lubricate the stone, so we don't want it heating up too much, and we also want it to give us a little bit of slurry for extra friction. You can see I place the blade firmly on the stone, putting even downward pressure onto it, and I tilt it forward so that I'm getting the optimal sort of grind on it, almost as if I'm slicing the top layer of the sharpening stone off. You see that? Tilting it forward, and then I'm pushing the knife away from me across the top of the stone, making sure that I get all of it in. I do that 8 times, and then I turn it around and do the other side. 8 times towards me, starting at the bottom and working my way up to the top. And I have to put a little twist in to make sure I get that curved edge at the top. You see that oil on the stone now is starting to thicken and darken. That's the little bits of metal coming off the blade, and that's all helping to make it more abrasive, which is what we want. Now I've done 8 sides, 8 strokes on either side. I'm now going to alternate like that. So I do 1 away, 1 towards me, and I'm going to do that about 8 times as well. This is to prevent what's called a burr. When you sharpen a blade, you push a very thin layer of metal to the edge, and it's called a burr, and it's like a hangnail. It overhangs the edge slightly, so your blade can feel sharp, but it's that burr will just fold over and you'll end up with a blunt knife again very quickly. So we have to remove that burr, which is why we do the alternating strokes, which gets rid of it. I've had a look there and I decided it's pretty good, but I use the bottom part of the knife there for fine carving, so I'm just going to give that a bit of extra sharpening just to make it nice and razor sharp. And there's the alternating strokes, getting rid of that burr that we've put on through the repetitive sharpening. So I'm just giving it a wipe off and an inspection as I go through. I decided here that I wanted to do a little bit more on the tip because I was actually using it to open cans of tuna with on a recent expedition in Sweden, and that really kind of blunted the tip. So I'm just doing a bit of extra sharpening on there to bring that back up to a singing level of sharpness. So obviously that's quite a big stone, it's quite heavy, it weighs about 1 kilogram, so you're not going to be wanting to carry that around. So this is knife sharpening at home. I'll do another video later about sharpening in the field. This is what you do in the comfort of your home. Testing the sharpness by just pushing my finger, and then there you see me rubbing the blade. I'm feeling for a burr, and I did feel one. So we're doing a few more alternating strokes there to get rid of that burr. If you run your finger sort of perpendicular to the blade, oh, and here we go, here's the burr. This is what it looks like under a microscope. And it's that burr from this image that I stole from the internet. That's what you're trying to get. So after sharpening on the stone, it's pretty sharp, but it's not that sharp. You see, I'm struggling to, it's tearing that paper instead of cutting it. So now what we do is strop it. We're going to strop it on some leather, and this is how we really introduce sharpness into the blade. Sharpening on a stone gets it good, but all that amazing razor sharpness comes from the stropping on leather, and this is just the rough side of a leather belt. The key difference to note here is that the blade is angled away from me, so I'm moving. The back of the knife is going forwards, as opposed to when we were on the stone, the edge of the knife was going forward. I'm going to do this about 25 times or so on either side, and then I'm going to alternate those strokes again, because even this produces that wire burr that we don't like. At this stage I should probably apologise for all that background noise. I can't help it, it's just where I live. If you don't have a leather belt to do this with, the simple solution to that is for you to go out and buy one. And then you can wear this belt on your, on your outdoor trousers when you're out and about, and then you've got the means to put that fine edge back on your knife if needs be. If you're wearing a canvas or nylon or plastic belt, then you can't really do anything with that. So the leather belts are better. Yep, cramps. I get cramp in my hand when I'm doing this. So there we go with the alternating strokes. If we did 25 or 50 strokes, then we're going to do the same amount with the alternating strokes. You must be careful when you're sharpening. As you can see there that my legs are out of the way. It kind of looks a bit dodgy from this angle, but I assure you my legs were positioned so that the blade, if it does slip for any reason, it's not going to go into my leg. You need to do the same thing. You need to take precautions. You don't have to use your leg. I just found it more convenient to get the camera angle right. You could put the belt around a chair leg or a tree branch or that table leg behind me, which I did try, but I just couldn't get the angle right. Okay, so now I'm going to test it. Let's see if it's sharpened up any. Having a quick look, I'm looking for any deformations, damage, any. Okay, good. It's sharper, you can see the difference there, but if you're out and about, that's good enough. However, I think I'm going to put a bit more of an edge on that, make it a bit sharper. So we're going to do some more sharpening, keener edge. Now look at the angle. You see that? The angle of the blade is is just so it fits up snugly. The bevel, the angled part of the blade that points up towards the sharp edge, is pressed flat against the edge there. If it's angled too far, we're going to blunt the knife. If it's not angled far enough, it's not going to sharpen it. It's just going to polish the face a bit. So there's a sweet spot to find here, and after you've got it right a couple of times, you'll start to recognise that sweet spot by the sound that it's making, that kind of shh sound, which is lovely. You don't often need to be honest with you, I've been up in northern Sweden, up above the Arctic Circle for the last 2 weeks, using my knife every day. And if you're only carving wood and battening, preparing fires, that kind of thing, maybe a bit of food work, preparing food, you don't really need to sharpen your knife that often. It's when you abuse your knife, when you start using it for things it's not really meant for, like digging and cutting like pieces of metal and things like that, opening tins, which is what I'm guilty of. When you start doing things like that, that's when you have to start sharpening your knife more regularly. But if you treat your knife well and keep it razor sharp like this, you don't really need to sharpen it all that often. So this knife had about 2 weeks of hard use on it, and only now really does it need sharpening. Only sharpen your knife when it needs it, because every time you do sharpen it, it makes it that little bit smaller, believe it or not. See the angle there? And again. Always remember to get those alternating strokes in. Right, let's see, did that make any difference? Checking it with my thumb, looking for any abnormalities. Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, that is a very, very sharp knife. You can see there the difference that stropping makes. Yes, that is my hardwood floor that I just stuck my knife into. What a mistake. So the knife I've got here has a stainless steel blade, and it doesn't really get dirty. What muck does get on it, things like pine resin and stuff that won't just wipe off, seems to come off anyway while I'm sharpening. But if you have anything nasty on your knife, like rust or some horrible thing that didn't come off when you were sharpening, you can just use your finger and the oil, which is now all gritty after sharpening from the oil stone. Just carefully, very carefully, angle the blade down towards the stone so that your finger can't touch the edge, and just use your finger to polish it, and anything will come off. If you're using a mild or high carbon steel blade, which is a fantastic blade, nothing wrong with that, they do blemish and they do rust, so you can find yourself having to do this every time you sharpen. So once you've got that shiny face on it, and it's a high carbon steel blade, you may find that while it's back in the sheath, it can pick up a bit of moisture and it can start to rust again in the sheath. So in a moment I'll show you a little trick to prevent that from happening. Okay, so we've done both sides. We've done the tip and we've done the spine, and now I'm just going to rush off to the bathroom. So we're gonna cover the blade in Vaseline petroleum jelly. You could use lip balm, anything like that really. Just, you want a light smear across the blade to seal it in and protect it from the moisture in the air. Here we go, Vaseline. You don't need much, just to get a little bit on your finger. That's probably a bit too much actually, but make sure you've got it all. Remember to be super careful because that knife is now a razor blade. And want as little as possible on there, because while it will keep the moisture off, it's also prone to picking up its own dirt and grime and dust and whatnot. So just put as little as possible on there, wiping off any excess, and then you can put it away just like that. When you get it out for the first time, you just use a cloth to wipe off the Vaseline, just like that. So all that crap that would have been attracted to the Vaseline just comes off in 1 or 2 wipes. And there you go. That is how you sharpen a knife. No bullshit, no gimmicks, just a stone and a belt and a little bit of Vaseline.